So, first of all, thank you for your time for this interview. And we have a serious question and serious topics to discuss about. And the first question will be, is it possible for a peaceful situation to be maintained? Because we have seen before that United Nations Resolution 1701 was held for a time, but escalation happened again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very valid question to ask whether this ceasefire will hold the same way 1701 will hold or held since 2006. We'll see, first of all. It's a ceasefire resolution for the next 60 days, while the IDF is withdrawing little by little from southern Lebanon. We'll see. It all depends at the end of the day on whether the Lebanese army and UNIFIL can maintain Hezbollah's presence outside of southern Lebanon, south of the Litani River. These past years, or pretty much since 2006, even though we had Resolution 1701, we saw that Hezbollah was arming itself in southern Lebanon. And, we saw the proliferation of equipment, weapons, and soldiers and terrorist fighters that were stationed in southern Lebanon by Hezbollah under the watchful eyes of UNIFIL and the Lebanese army. So 1701 was not implemented. This resolution or this ceasefire agreement sits on Resolution 1701 and reaffirms it. So we're very interested in seeing how it will look like in the next 60 days to see if it holds, if the Lebanese army does deploy to southern Lebanon in force, 10,000 troops in southern Lebanon. Will UNIFIL change the way they act, gather intelligence, and warn all partners regarding Hezbollah infrastructure in the south? But also now in this ceasefire agreement, we have two more parties that are involved. It spokes up or strengthens 1701. We have the United States and France, who are now partners and will provide information if needed for any Hezbollah activity. Also, in the past, under 1701, Israel was not allowed to have reconnaissance flight over southern Lebanon. This time, Israel has that ability to do so. So Israel will also be very vigilant in gathering the information regarding any incursions by Hezbollah.
So that will be my next question. Actually, how does Israel see the international community as mediators in creating peace?
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. As I said, both the United States and France, they are part of this agreement. They are signed on the letters sent between Israel's government and the Lebanese government. And we trust them. They're good partners. The United States is our strategic ally. We have great trust in them as well. We think it will help to bolster this agreement. And any agreement regarding mediation in this region, we need good and strong partners at the end of the day. Israel is fighting. We're not fighting Lebanon. It wasn't, even though the agreement is signed between Israel and Lebanon, the war was not against Lebanon. It was against Hezbollah. But on the Hezbollah side, first of all, there's almost no one left to sign any such agreement. And secondly, even if they sign it, it's not even worth the paper that they sign it on. Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations in the region, Hamas, the Houthis, in Iraq and Syria, really, this region is full of these terrorist organizations. Unfortunately, no trust can be built with them because they'll break it the same way they did since 2006, the same way Hamas has done it. So having mediators and having international partners is important, but they need to be good partners. They need to be allies. They need to be someone that we will have a strategic relationship with. And the United States and France, of course, are such partners. So we're happy for their involvement.
And how does Israel plan to address the humanitarian problems arising from these conflicts, particularly in Gaza?
Well, It's a good question, but it's a question I've been asked several times. And I think what is not asked in this question is the humanitarian crisis in Israel. Because I'll speak about Lebanon for a second. We had 60,000 civilians displaced by this conflict. Our entire northern region, closer to the border with Lebanon, has been displaced for more than a year now. People hopefully will start coming back to that region, but it's hard. There's a loss of trust from the citizens, whether they'll have another October 7th on their hands, the same way we had with Hamas. So we have displaced people inside of Israel. All in all, more than 100,000 Israelis from the north and the south that have been displaced. Regarding the situation in Gaza, Israel has been, of course, very vigilant regarding that situation. Humanitarian aid has been flowing throughout the entire time. I know there were voices saying there's no humanitarian aid, but there is humanitarian aid. Thousands of trucks have moved in the past year from Egypt, from Israel, over the border to Gaza, and provided humanitarian aid through either aid agencies or private contractors. At some point, there was overflowing of humanitarian aid and a problem of delivering it because there weren't enough trucks to deliver the humanitarian aid that already crossed the border into Gaza. There weren't enough people to distribute the aid. So it's there. Of course, the situation, it's a war, a war that was caused by Hamas at the end of the day. And Hamas is also fueling this humanitarian crisis because they don't want to see it solved. For them, the death and destruction of the people of Gaza is the fuel to continue their fight against Israel. Israel, on the other hand, is trying to do everything in its power in order to provide that humanitarian aid because, again, we are not fighting the people of Gaza. We're fighting Hamas terrorists that have embedded themselves in every facet of society in Gaza, under the buildings, inside of the medical clinics and their schools, unfortunately aided by UNRWA and other organizations. So the humanitarian project is something that we're keeping a close eye on, and it's very, very important to us.
And what is the stance and opinion about the International Criminal Court that issued the arrest warrant for a Prime Minister and a former Minister of Defense?
Well, we reject it completely. It's a politicized move, of course. The Criminal Court has put together a democratic country together with a terrorist organization. The arrest warrants were for 3 people: the Prime Minister of Israel, the former Secretary of Defense, and Muhammad Def, the chief terrorist of Hamas, and also Yahya Sinwar, but Sinwar was killed. Def is also dead, but for some reason the Criminal Court decided to still issue an arrest warrant for his body. To put Israel on the same pedestal as a terrorist organization is a terrible way of looking at reality. At the end of the day, Israel was attacked on October 7th by Hamas. Israel is defending itself and its citizens against Hamas. On October 6th, we had no real reason or want to go into the Gaza Strip. On October 7th, we understood that we have to go into the Gaza Strip to get rid of Hamas. Hamas will no longer stay on our border. Israel will not be able to live next to such an entity. So Israel went in. And the fact that the International Criminal Court is taking warrants against a democratically elected prime minister and a democratically elected minister of defense, it's a first of its kind. It's heavily politicized, pushed on by different factors, from Iran to unaligned nations that have decided to attack Israel. So we reject it completely.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you very much.